and welcome to Those Were the Days. This is the show that looks back at those sometimes prehistoric days of television and looks at them through a modern lens. I'm your host for the show this time, Audie, but I am joined by my pack of TV watchers, the Triassic Travis.
Purple haze all through my brain. Banana, banana.
The Jurassic Amy.
For kids, say no to capitalism. That was the message I was supposed to get from this, right?
And the Cretaceous Steven.
Audie, you're so good at podcasting, I'm gonna have to fire you so I can hire you again.
And as you guessed it, we are talking about dinosaurs. You know, the show Dinosaurs.
Not my favorite dinosaurs. The T-Rex.
No, the show Dinosaurs was on ABC. But wait, aren't we supposed to be talking about drugs episodes of TV? How the heck did they do it with dinosaurs? Oh, wait, dear listener. Oh, wait. We're going to get there. Okay. And I'm just breaking the fourth wall here because you guys are super cracking up for me.
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
They sound good to me.
Okay.
Everyone sounds okay.
Everyone sounds good, but
Okay.
you.
All right. Yay.
We can try. You can try hanging
Okay.
up and calling back one more time.
Okay. We'll try that one more time.
Yeah, because it got pretty gnarly.
Crunchy.
I'm gonna have to remember how to edit this.
Oh, no.
I'm so scared.
Work to be done.
What's the timestamp on this? 60.
It's like
60
2.
We're 61 seconds
Oh,
in.
yeah. Well, mine is. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're watching this on the YouTube, which you're not, because I keep forgetting to upload the episode. But if you were, how do we sound? How do we sound now?
Y'all still sound crunchy to me.
Yeah, you still sound crunchy too. Do you want to try?
Mother sucker.
Do you want to try changing our region to something else?
How does one do that?
I don't know.
It's done by the.
You can go up to the top right of Discord, and it says region automatic. We can pick a different one and just see if it clears up, like US East or something.
Oh,
Okay.
there it is.
I don't know how to do that. I don't know who controls that.
Huh.
It is.
Didn't seem to do anything.
It didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything.
Oh, Travis changed it.
How's that?
Audie's gone.
Wait, nope, he's back. Audie, how do we sound to you?
Right? Still sound crunchy.
Yeah.
Well, it
Keep
usually
talking.
takes it a second to kind of catch up once you change regions.
Yeah.
But I put us in the south,
Okay.
figuring that was closest to you.
That's where Audie lives.
Right. It's better. Like,
You sound better,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
so we'll just go with it and see what happens.
Okay.
All right, are we ready?
So,
I've got to unpause it. Okay, I'll unpause it now, and then you can just pretend that nothing happened. Here we go.
okay. So we're talking about the ABC series Dinosaurs. Now, for those of you who don't know, Dinosaurs was a big deal for the Jim Henson Company. They're the ones that produced it. Dinosaurs was actually the baby of Jim Henson himself. The one thing that is sad about it is he died before it was officially produced and released on television, like the year before. But it's something that he had in his mind since the 80s. Specifically since he worked on a movie where they did dinosaur puppets and models for this movie that was more an actual scientific thing about prehistoric animals and stuff. And ever since then, he kind of had it in the back of his mind. When he died, they were in the middle of production, or at the beginning of production, trying to figure out how to get this show going. And so they finally did. It first aired on April 26th in 1991. So we're talking Jim Henson has been playing with this idea for like 10 years and trying to get it off the ground, trying to get anybody to do it. And finally, ABC gave him some money and gave him the green light. One of the most incredible things about this show is that just about every major character is a suit puppet that somebody is wearing. Somebody is animatronically controlling somewhere else. So like when you look up who's playing what character, there's at least 3 people. The person wearing the suit, the person actually doing the animatronics mainly for the face and stuff, and then whoever's voicing it. And some interesting voices. So we have the father, Earl Sinclair. He was voiced by Stuart Pankin. You may not recognize that name, but you've probably seen his face in a few things here or there.
Yeah, he's
I
definitely
didn't
like
recognize
a
him too
character.
much.
Yeah, he's a character actor I've seen in stuff before.
Right. Fran Sinclair, the mother, was voiced by Jessica Walter.
Oh,
Mhm.
Fran Sinclair
I-
walked so that Lucille Bluth could run.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had forgotten completely that was her. And like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
so I know she's Lucille Bluth, but I always remember her from a movie called PCU, where she played President
Oh,
Ursula
yeah.
Thompson.
Yeah.
She was great in that too. But yeah, I had completely forgotten that she did the voice for Fran, and then Fran started talking in this, and I'm like, holy, that's wow.
See, to me,
Yeah.
she didn't sound like Jessica Walter. Like, it didn't sound, the voice in my head for Jessica, it's been a while since I've watched Arrested Development, to be fair. But there's definitely, it did not immediately connect for me that was the same person. I'm like, holy moly. I mean, but she was older when she was doing Arrested Development. The voice takes a hit as you age.
Yeah.
So I think there's a fair amount of sandpaper in there that was not there with Fran.
Yeah. Plus, Fran is not exactly as acerbic
It's
as
true.
Right.
Lucille is.
Yeah, she's much more caring,
Yeah.
wants to keep her family
or
together.
She's not Mallory Archer either.
She's not Mallory Archer.
Right.
So
Mhm.
it's a
Not
very
quite.
different voice, but yeah, I noticed that right away. Go ahead.
So Robbie Sinclair was voiced by Jason Willinger, another kind of character actor. Charlene Sinclair was voiced by Sally Struthers.
That's where that voice is from.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh man, Sally Struthers, TV VCR repair. You guys remember that?
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
In fact, that's mostly what I remember her for.
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
mean,
the only thing I can think of.
All in the Family. That was her big claim to fame.
Yeah.
She was in All in the Family, which will be covered one of these days.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
But yeah,
I'm sure of it.
as a 6-year-old watching TV VCR repair, I found I could get a degree in that. Like, sounds legit. Let's go.
Mhm.
And then the last one specifically for this episode was Baby Sinclair was voiced and puppeted by Kevin Clash. If you don't know that name, he's the guy behind Elmo.
Yep.
He's not the guy who originally did Elmo. He's the one who perfected the voice that we all know of Elmo now.
There's a great episode of Reading Rainbow where they do like the behind the scenes on the Muppets, and Kevin Clash is in there and he makes a LeVar Burton puppet, and it's very good. One of
nice.
my favorites.
There's a really good
So-
documentary on him too. What is it called? Finding
Yeah.
Elmo. Like if you want to,
Yeah.
check that out, it was
Yeah.
actually really fun to learn how that. all
It
came to be.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a voice too. As soon as the baby spoke, I'm like, oh, that's right,
Yep.
it's Kevin Clash. Like I recognize
Yeah.
that right away.
Mhm.
There were a couple of other voices that you might recognize in this episode. Sherman Hemsley was
Helmsley, yeah.
was his boss.
Uh-huh.
Helmsley?
Helmsley. Yeah.
Either way, he was, and that was awesome. And I didn't recognize him. It wasn't until I looked at the credits afterwards. Robbie's buddy, who gets him the leaf in the first place, is voiced by Christopher
By-
Maloney.
Yep.
Holy cow!
And
If you
I
listen
didn't
for it, you
recognize
could
that
hear
at
it.
all.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
When you're listening for it, you're like, oh, hot dang, that is Chris
Mhm.
Maloney. So he doesn't just play a cop on TV. He plays a dinosaur.
Like a stoner dinosaur.
if you were
Stoner
Jim
dinosaur,
Henson,
which is not that far from his stoner chef role in
True.
If you were Jim
What was it?
Henson, you could just basically call people up and just have them on your show. Like, I mean, I know not all these names were big then that are now, but I mean, some of them, you're like, oh, I feel
Sally
like,
Struthers, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a big deal. Like, you're playing. Hey, would you like to come play a dinosaur? Like, what? What are we talking about? Like Roseanne with dinosaurs, and okay, sure. It's just
Sure.
amazing to me. Like, anyway.
Well, it's funny. Just a slight tangent. Like me and Travis have noticed after going through the series Highlander, how many actors start out as character actors and have transitioned into voice work for whatever reason, whether that's just their thing or they've gotten older and it's like voice work's a lot easier than getting, on stage or whatever. So
Especially now
yeah,
that
I
you
could
can do it from your house.
Yeah.
right.
You know, you don't have to go anywhere. Great.
But yeah, I'm with Steven. Like if Jim Henson called me up and said, "Hey, you want to do a voice of something?" I was like, I said yes yesterday. Let's go. You know.
Right.
So
Well,
we're
and
talking about.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it. Voice acting is a little bit different from your traditional in front of camera acting, and I know that like Rob Paulson, for instance, is a huge voice acting talent. He didn't start out going for that, but that was where he
Right.
was able to like really get a foothold. And if you get good at voice acting, you work forever and whenever you want. And I mean, the cast of The Simpsons basically could just do The Simpsons and work like 6 weeks out of the year if they wanted to, because they could
Yeah.
record everything at once and be done for the year. And so you see a lot of actors kind of transition into that. And that's kind of cool to see them expand and try these new things, because it is a different type of acting and not everyone can do it. And it's great when you do see it. And yeah, this was a show that I'd forgotten some of the voice talent that was in it. So it was fun to watch. It was fun to go back and look at this.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we're talking about, and here's the weird thing I couldn't find an answer to. On Disney Plus, it's season 2, episode 9. If you look at other listings, it's kind of different. I don't know why. I didn't research or find anything specific to tell us that. But season 2, episode 9, A New Leaf. And this is one of the drug episodes Dinosaurs did. They did at least one more, because this show was not afraid to tackle anything because they had kind of free reign. The way the writers and producers talk about it is, once they got the show greenlit, the higher ups at ABC just assumed it's a kids show, do good, and kind of were hands off. So they got to talking about all kinds of heavy stuff and got away with it because of the way they handled it in this show. And I would say the way they handled it superbly, especially with this episode. So this is an episode that is very much, you could say, a parallel to kind of what we were talking about last time with Different Strokes and talking about weed.
I like
Robbie
the
has
message was different though.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm saying that the thing that was what we were dealing with, the drug, quote unquote, was similar to weed, but yeah, they handled it a little differently. So we start off with Robbie having a good old fight with his dad about his hair. I mean, spikes. And I just wondered, like, what would that look like with his dad actually cutting his spikes off? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
It's
a little
like,
weird.
Maybe
I
he's
know
like
they're going for the whole hair thing, but
maybe he's like a lizard, and that's like a defense mechanism. They'll fall off if you pull on them, and they grow back. That's my guess.
yeah. Oh, and one thing to also sort out at the beginning, they are a family that are not any of the same exact species.
Keep going. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Don't worry about that.
Like, I was reading up on some of it, and they were like, "Yeah, we thought about that, but it's a lot more interesting if everybody's different looking." So we just said, "Screw it," and moved past it. And I never considered that until I saw that in the interview. It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of weird. but it doesn't bother me.
But who
So,
cares? You know, if you act like something's
right.
normal, is normal. And it's a
Yep.
fictional world
Mhm.
anyway. Just have fun. It's the
Yeah.
best
Oh, yeah.
lesson to
Right.
learn from stuff like this.
So, in typical teenage fashion, Robbie just storms out saying, I'm going to leave. I'll be fine on my own, which I thought was hilarious. Like, they got to that point and he's leaving, and his dad is like, don't you walk away from me, even though he practically just kicked him out of the house.
Yeah.
So, and then he's walking with his buddy Spike, like we said, voiced by Chris Maloney. Really, really funky voice there. And they're just walking through the woods. Like, yeah, we got this. We've got this. We're at the top of the food chain. Some little mammal runs away and like, so plants? Yeah.
Plants are slow.
Plants are slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
But and like, what a teenage way to do that too. Like, yeah, we got this. We got this. All right, so let's go for the easy thing over here.
Let's
Like,
have a
right.
salad.
That's going to be work.
Salad.
Let's just have a salad.
Yeah. And they come across what is known pretty much throughout the episode as a happy plant. They don't give us much of anything except for the fact that it's kind of this purplish colored plant. Nothing special about it. Like, it's kind of interesting that they didn't go out of their way to make it look like any particular kind of plant that
Nope.
we might think of.
Nope.
They just it was a purplish color that I think stands out compared to the rest of the kind of typical green and yellows they were doing for the backgrounds and stuff. And then they get high and they're just loving it.
They get real high. You know,
Yeah.
you mentioned
Everything
you
so
mentioned the
funny.
purple leaf, and I'm not above enjoying Biodome for what it is. But the purple leaf made me think of Holly Shore's Purple Sticky Punch. You know,
Oh, yeah.
that's what came to mind immediately.
Nice.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what it
I had the
was.
same thing watching it.
So Robbie's so high, he forgets about the fight with his dad. And it's like, I need to go talk to my dad. I love my dad. And he shows up back at the house with a lot of purple leaves, offers them to his dad. His dad's thinking, what? Because Robbie's coming in hot, like, just, I love you, Dad. You were right. I was wrong. This is awesome. I'm happy. Have some leaf. And his dad has some leaf. And his dad gets high. And then we get a musical number.
Really impressive choreography. If you take,
Yes.
especially take into account that these are giant foam rubber suits.
My
that the
gosh.
person
Uh-huh.
inside cannot really see what they are doing.
Right.
And they are not nimble. They
No,
should
but,
not
like-
be able to be nimble at all, but they were surprisingly good at this dancing.
Yeah.
And
Like,
that
There
was
was a
amazing.
part. There was a part where like Robbie kind of like steps over Earl's tail, and I was like, "How did? Yeah, whew,
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
that they tripped on that like 4 times before
Right.
we got to this
And
part."
yet, you
That
have to
was-
take a minute to appreciate the cinematography of this whole shot. It went from a 3-camera
Mhm.
shoot to a daggone stage play with spotlights
Mhm.
Right.
seamlessly.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
holy crap. I'm like, oh, wait, I'm watching a Broadway musical framed as if I'm watching like
Mhm.
Hamilton live on Disney Plus. I was just blown away at that. It was so good. So well done. And
Mhm.
I love that Earl uses his tail as a chair. That just, him just sitting down like on his
Yeah.
tail just made me, tickled me, because I would do that. If I had a big old tail like that,
Yeah.
I'd figure
Oh,
out
yeah.
I could.
You
sit
don't
like
see
that.
it much in this episode, but his armchair that he sits in normally is just the arms. Like, that's something they figured out with his costume. That's how he sits.
That's
So
amazing.
his armchair is just the two arms. You can see it in the background, but yeah, that's hilarious. So, like, when they finish the dance number, they go and sit down, and Earl just plops down like he normally does. Charlene shows up, like, here, have plant. We happy. She's like, okay. And she immediately gets hooked on it. Like, there's no like, hey, let's fade in and come back. She's like, oh yeah, this is good stuff. And then we find out they've been there half the day, because mom comes into the room and is like, what don't you have to go to work? Earl's like, oh, yeah, I guess I should go to work. That's something I do. And then he laughs at himself because he realizes he's not wearing any pants. It's like,
No one's wearing any pants.
none of you do, dude.
Said the baby.
Yeah,
Doesn't the baby wear a
he has a
diaper?
He wears a
has a
diaper.
diaper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because babies wear diapers. There's some more philosophizing later, so we'll get there. So Earl apparently goes to work and gives all his buddies at work more of the leaf too. And it's funny because he's walking in without his hard hat, and they're just like, "Hey, what are you doing? Watch out!" For those of you who haven't watched the show, Earl's job is to push trees over. That's it.
He's a logger, you know.
Mm-hmm.
His best friend is a T-Rex, and I forgot about that. Is Roy, right?
Yeah.
And his little
Mhm.
stupid
Yeah.
arms,
Little
and I
tiny
forgot
arms.
about how good it was.
Yes. Oh, totally forgot about that. And then there's that
God.
there's that shot of him later on, and you just see the little tiny arms hanging there, and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
so good.
It's times like this where you forget again. These are all people in suits
Uh-huh.
interacting with each other. Can't hardly see. They probably have a little monitor like
Can't
right here in
see.
front of their face that gives them a camera angle. But
A
again,
1991 monitor in front of their face.
right,
Right.
Yeah.
Like, let's not forget.
exactly. So Earl passes out purple leaves to everybody, and they're all like, "Okay, you're late, dude. You know that, right?" And Earl's boss, what was his name?
Richfield.
Richfield.
Richfield, yeah. Mr. Richfield, in typical fashion, which I don't know how Sherman Hemsley kept his voice throughout the show because it seems like all he did is yell for most of it.
Yeah. I know.
But he yells for him to get in there, and Earl goes into his office / trailer and is still just high as a kite and talking to his boss about how much he loves him. His boss doesn't understand any of that, is ticked as all get out, which he typically is, always mad, always yelling. I loved when he was talking about Earl was talking about, trying to get with everything and find that inner child inside you. And Richfield is like, "Oh, the only little boy inside me is the one I ate for breakfast, and I'm eating his sister for lunch."
That was so good.
It was just like he was always the most terrifying character that you wondered what he was going to do.
And he's a triceratops. Like, he's a herbivore. Like,
So
but
the
he's
best is
horrifying.
there's the meme from Jurassic Park, right? Like the first one where they've got the sick triceratops and they have changed Richfield, and it's just very good. It's
Yeah.
it's quality stuff.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, Mr. Richfield is probably my favorite character in this episode.
Yeah.
Just because he, they have that giant costume. He sits behind that desk, never moving. And I think they even like green screen that to make him look bigger and more intimidating.
The set was real.
But-
They green screened Earl on top of him because they couldn't actually move those two puppets together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, we also don't really know how big Mr. Ridgefield is in real life because camera framing is magic in these situations. Like, that could be a shoebox for all we know. Now it's more detailed. It was probably much bigger than a shoebox, but I don't think it was like there was a person in there. It was probably staged in such a way and shot in such a way that it was a reasonable size. That's why they had to green screen Earl on top of it when he approaches the desk.
Right. But Richfield's such a fun character because you've got that whole boss capitalism stuff that he frequently peppers in. Like when he says, "I ought to kill you and your whole family, but I'd probably get in trouble with a union." Line. I was like, "Oh my gosh." So he's like, "I'll just fire you." There's stuff like that gets peppered in. And that's something this show peppers in everywhere all the time. Little things like that. Okay. So he fires Earl, and Earl is so happy, like we just said. he
He
climbs
doesn't have
up.
to go to work anymore.
He
And
doesn't have to
that's-
work anymore, and he gives
yeah.
Mr. Richfield a big old kiss. And Richfield's just, this is one of those things where it's the magic of puppetry, where they just have his bottom lip quiver just a little bit. Right after that, like you see his face just stunned and his bottom lip just quivering just a little bit, and his hands like he doesn't know how to react at all. And it's done so freaking well through the puppetry. And then Earl's like, okay, bye. And so we cut to, we don't know how long yet. We're about to find out. Earl, Robbie, and Charlene are sitting at the table in the kitchen, just high as all get out. Earl's playing with the spoon and sugar. Robbie is just passed out. Charlene's playing with some little necklace like bead. Bead. Bead.
Yeah, she's gone
Mm.
hyper focused.
Yep. And then we cut. This is the first time we've seen the baby all episode. Like, and the baby is the character that kind of makes this show, and is one that I think everybody glommed onto, and it was like, as long as the baby's hitting Earl over the head, we're good. So he's finishing up a bottle, and he's like, I want more food. And nobody's paying attention to the baby. The baby's like, more food. More food. Baby on fire. And they finally pay attention to him.
To be fascinated by the baby.
To be
Look at his arms and legs.
Yeah.
Which is how I respond to a baby when dead sober. So
yeah.
I don't know what that says about me. I'm like, look at its little legs.
We do get a few funny little things just before that, like Robbie having this epiphany that maybe we're being watched by cameras hidden in the wall. And he points, and everywhere he points is an actual camera we're watching.
So that was one of my alternate openings, was that, like, remember, kids, drugs make you break the fourth wall.
This episode was much more meta than I remembered the show being too.
Yeah.
Very much. Like, I loved when he pointed at the one camera and went up and down, and the camera followed his finger.
Yeah, the camera
that
kept
was
following his finger. That was great.
That was the first moment in this episode that I actually laughed out loud. Like, that was the point that got me. I just died. I was like, that's brilliant.
And then there was Earl's little nugget of wisdom, like, our numerical system is based on 10, but we only have 8 fingers. Like, okay. That's great. I was watching a clip earlier from a previous episode, and Robbie's asking, why do they count in years backwards? Because they're still counting the years the way we do. It's like, and they just brush it off. But it's funny little stuff like that. I love when shows do that.
Like, I love when shows just brush off ridiculous stuff. Like, there's like, it's so classic. Like, they do it a bunch in this one. There's a bit in What We Do in the Shadows where it's like, I'm gonna take my clothes off so I can turn into a bat. What? No, you don't have to do that. Well, where do the clothes go? Don't worry about it. Let's just keep going. And it's just like, we don't need to answer everything. Like, just go.
Yeah,
fine.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it.
So they realize the baby's there. They go and like, oh, baby. And then mom comes back, Fran, and the baby's like, somebody who will feed me. Where's the food? And mom's like, well, I couldn't get any food because apparently we don't have any money. And Earl's like, oh yeah, that's right. I quit like a week ago.
Which, like, let me tell you, I live in some pretty dire financial straits most of the time. You know what I mean? Like, but you miss a week and you are not buying any food at the grocery store. You guys, like, this is where I come back to capitalism is the true evil in all of this. Because they could all just be stoned all the time and living in a happy, society. But no, They have credit scores to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but look, he's got a family of 5 and he's a logger. Like, I mean, how much does he get paid to
That's
push
fair.
over those
That's
trees?
fair.
He
That's
can't
fair.
make a nest egg with like hungry teenagers in the house and a baby. Like, are you
That's
kidding?
fair.
That's
Mm-hmm.
more than anybody could handle. Like, maybe they are living
Yeah.
week to week, you know?
Rough.
In defense of Earl's livelihood. It's
I mean, I'm
hard.
just saying.
Yeah.
But you're right.
It's a
If they
nice
had a
house.
universal basic income, maybe they could
This
feed
is
their
what I'm saying,
family.
right?
Yeah.
Send your
It
email
was
to
funny.
those
I
were
was
the day show at gmail.com.
just on that tangent. I watched some other clips, and one of them was Earl asking for a raise, and Sinclair was like, Why should I give you more money for doing the same thing you do?" It's like, well, because I have a family. And he's like, so
Yeah.
why is that my problem? Have less family.
Eat one
It's
of
like,
them.
oh yeah, right. So Fran's had it. She's like, no, you're going back and you're going to get your job right now. So we got Fran and Earl going back to the log site, and we find that everybody else has been chomping on some purple leaves, and all his
Mhm.
buddies are doing a little Congo line. Well, everyone but Eddie. And this
Oh,
is one of the
Eddie.
things that I loved about this part
Poor Eddie.
is 3 of his buddies there, all fine, happy as all get out. Eddie, it has a different effect on Eddie. And
Poor
he's
Eddie.
just paranoid. It's like,
Yep.
He used to like it, but it made him paranoid. Wait, did it make me paranoid? Oh no.
so much so that they go into Richfield's trailer,
Which has
and
been
even Eddie,
painted.
Yeah. It was
Yes,
which
it's
has
now
been
all psychedelic tie-dye painted,
Uh-huh.
and oh, so good.
Like the Electric Mayhem got to it. It's
Mhm.
very good.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And they go in there, and Eddie pokes in, is like, y'all talking about me? It's like, no, Eddie, back off. It's like, he comes back in, are y'all going to be talking about me when I leave? And they're like, no. And we
Even
catch
Richfield's like, be cool, man, be cool.
and Richfield has turned into a hippie.
His
And-
flowers.
Oh my gosh. The flowers, him singing
Oh man.
was just so great. Travis did it a little bit for his intro.
Mhm.
Just
Purple
singing some Purple
Haze.
Haze.
Singing some Purple Haze, singing along to Jimi
Mhm.
Hendrix.
See, and who wrote that in their time? Was there a Jimi Hendrix alternative dinosaur guy who
There
could rock and
definitely
roll?
is.
Absolutely.
sure there was.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Maybe
I'm
this
not
isn't
gonna
in the
Google
past.
Jimi Hendrix
This is just a
dinosaur.
parallel dimension where the dinosaurs lived, and they're just the same
Right.
things happened, but they're dinosaurs and not people.
The
Well-
finale would beg to differ.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
We don't have to go there.
I don't know.
yet.
The way we're going,
The Jimmy
I don't know, Amy. The train we're on right now.
the Jimi Hendrix dinosaur is a T-Rex, and that's the amazing thing is he can play guitar with those
With
tiny
the
little
tiny
arms.
So Sinclair's high as a kite and is just talking about how much he loves Earl now, and that he wants Earl to be his right-hand man, his partner. Right up until the phone rings. And Richfield's been fired.
Yeah.
He hangs up the phone. It's like, yep, sorry, I've been fired. Let's have some fun. And
Yeah.
gets right back to it like nothing happened. We don't get any real resolution with this. They kind of just leave it alone, and Fran and Earl are just like, what? So then we cut to the next day. Earl, Robbie, and Charlene are all lying on the floor of the house. And they're all apparently just waking up. And apparently have gone through all the leaves they have. Except for one. And they start fighting over it. And then Fran shows up. And she's like, what are y'all doing? And she says, until you clean up, we're out of here. And her and the baby are about to leave. Baby has to get his licks in though. And we also get another great reference to some of the drug messages we have heard over the years.
So good.
He's just sitting there with a pan. This is your brain. This is your brain on the plan. and whacks Earl across the face.
Now,
Any
here's the
questions?
thing. Here's the thing about the this is your brain on drugs, right? Because it was like the
Mhm.
egg, and then it
Yeah.
was the beautiful egg frying in
Right.
butter.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's the message you're looking for.
Yeah.
That
Do you
does
have
not.
any questions? Yes. Is there also bacon?
Yeah.
Like, that's
That
my
looks
question.
delicious.
Fantastic. I was feeling peckish
Mhm.
from the drugs.
Until a few years later when Rachel Lee Cook did it, and she's like just trashing the whole apartment. She's
Yeah.
Did y'all remember
Yeah.
that one where
Oh
she's like,
yeah.
"This is your brain and this is your family." And
Or
just
the
went down the
one
line.
where the
If you
kid
haven't
is
seen that, YouTube that
deflated.
one because it's
I'm
phenomenal.
gonna look that
Remember the
up.
one with the kid that's deflated?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. They
Oh
did that for a
yeah.
That
while.
one was
Mhm.
You
weird.
guys remember the nobody says they want to be a junkie when they grow up? You know, and it's
Yes.
all
Yep.
like
I don't know, actually.
what is a
I'm
junkie?
starting to
I
have
remember
other
just
thoughts.
sitting there going, "What's a
Right.
junkie?" It told me nothing.
Mhm.
Nothing. I just knew I didn't want to be a junkie, whatever that was.
Right. So after Fran finally leaves, it kind of hits Earl that maybe we need to stop doing this. But only after they've gone into the woods and frantically looked for more and more leaves. Till they
Yep.
finally see Spike on the ground, just sitting there, still high as a kite. They're like, "Wait, do we look like this?" And I love it
In the
because
woods, thriving.
I mean, he has like moss growing on him. He's not exactly thriving.
right.
But
moss is thriving.
he's not dead, if that's our
No, he's
standard.
No,
fine.
not
He's
yet.
fine.
And I love that they're like, "Well, let's just leave the plant here." Charlene's like, "Should we destroy it?" And Earl's like, "No. No, we should not. We should persevere. We should be better than that and leave it here, knowing that we conquered it." Cut to Fran right next to him. "Yep, we're burning it. That's a good idea too. That's fine." Mm-hmm.
You don't know. This plant could have also had medicinal properties. You don't know. It's clearly unknown to dinosaur kind. Maybe
Yeah.
this
Right.
could have saved them all, Fran. Did you ever think of that?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Who knows what would have happened with the fumes from that burning plant too?
Also
Like,
that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
except
tradition
right when,
dictates.
except for right when that happens, we hear cut.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
And this episode takes a turn that I don't think anybody was
I did
expecting
not.
at
No.
Nope.
all.
Nope. Not one bit
Nope.
did I expect that.
And
ending.
then we follow Robbie, who
I believe you
apparently
mean
whose real
Robert.
name is Robert Sinclair,
Yeah.
on the adult theme mega hit Dinosaurs show. And so I've got to read it because this whole thing,
Yeah,
like, you
it's
can't
so
just.
good.
Yeah.
So this is what we end up with. One of the camera dudes is like, got a little preachy towards the end. And Robbie responds, "Indeed it did. You see, folks, drugs are a major problem in our society. Drugs ruin lives, divide families, and lead to preachy, heavy-handed sitcom episodes like this one. Of course, we managed to keep it delightfully funny and upbeat, but other shows aren't so lucky. There's an epidemic in television today that threatens the very fiber of our comedy that we hold so dear. When one show does an anti-drug episode, other shows feel pressure to do one too. Now they're even going after the younger shows. I mean, we've only been on for a year, and here I am talking to the camera. So come on, say no to drugs. Help put a stop to preachy sitcom endings like this one. It's up to you to make a difference."
And that's when I cried laughing. I had nothing. I was just a puddle. It was amazing.
Well, it was so well executed because you hear cut. Robbie starts walking off, and you've got a dinosaur running a camera,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and then they just lean into it. And Amy, you had posted in our group chat a link to an article where they interviewed the two creators of the show about this particular episode.
Yep.
And I read that, and it was great because the show got created, and the thought was, oh, we're gonna have the new Simpsons, and this will be a huge hit, and it wasn't the huge hit that they thought it would be. And so, like Audie said earlier, ABC, the executives were just kind of like, all right, just do whatever you're doing.
Yeah,
And they just kind of left them alone so they could slip stuff in there. And I loved how subversive this episode was, because it's the drugs episode, but it's not the preachy anti-drug episode. They really wanted to kind of be like, look, this isn't a bad thing, but moderation is what you need. If you overdo anything, it's going to be bad, and let's show that part of it. And like going in that direction was brilliant. And it's become a cult classic episode. It's become one that people remember. I was looking at the IMDb listing, just going kind of scrolling past episodes, and this one is ranked like 2 or 3 points higher than other episodes.
Yeah.
You know, they're like 6.5, 7. This is like an 8.5. Like it's way above, because people really like this episode.
I mean, you can't tell me that there were no drugs involved in the making of a sitcom starring dinosaurs.
If anything, this is the anti-drugs episode.
Yeah.
Sure.
At the end there.
I took away a lot of wrong lessons from this episode.
I'll tell you, the hero of the story to me, though, is Fran, because I've been around friends that are drunk when I was the sober one, and I could feel the tension of her trying to manage her family of high idiots and just going, why is there no food? Oh, don't worry. Be like, no, we have to worry about food. What is wrong with you people? Like that kind of stress I identified with.
We hate that we got through the baking soda at the back.
Yeah,
so good.
And we're talking about it for our drugs episode. There are a lot of episodes that tackle other subjects in a similar fashion. Like there's definitely a religion cult episode. There's one where Robbie comes out as an herbivore, and it's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
So there's at least one more drug episode that we did not tackle.
So I think, wasn't there one where Fran gets sexually harassed or something?
Yeah,
I think too. Plus, just the idea of making you called it Roseanne with dinosaurs earlier, and that's basically what it was. Yeah, and to do that in general is pretty impressive, and to do what they did. And tackle the kind of stuff that they did, because they could just get away with it. It's one of those, because it's a kids show, right? It's puppets, right? The Muppets did the same thing. The Muppets were able to like go after stuff that wouldn't fly in a normal variety show, because they were puppets and Muppets, and they could just get away with that. And the same thing here. And I love that kind of stuff. It always amazes me, the kinds of things that you can tackle and go for and get away with, because you're doing it in an alternative style that the normies don't understand.
You can do
watch this show for that with them. Watch this show for that, because there's one episode where there is a meta line about that. Earl's watching something with the baby. Fran walks in and he's like, this kids show is really something. And Fran's like, it's just puppets. Don't worry. He's like, but no, there's like some witty writing going on with these puppets. It's like, it's just puppets.
Yeah.
I did not remember Dinosaurs being that meta. Like I remember watching. Yeah. I remember it. I remember the show. I remember watching it, but I didn't remember the meta humor in it. And that was probably my favorite thing in this entire episode, was like that moment with Robbie where he's like, "Hey, what if we're being watched by cameras and there's one there and over there and there?" And I was just like, "Oh, this is brilliant. This is so good."
It was the comedic timing in that, where he points and then he like slowly, like it was like 5 seconds of him moving his finger around and the camera following it. And that's what got me. It was just the timing was so good. It was Jim Henson-y, like all over the place.
Well, that's what I was about to say. If anyone is a master of the meta humor, it's Jim Henson. And I think we find that in so much of the stuff he's produced, especially like the Muppet Show. After watching it now as an adult and seeing what kind of jokes were in there and what kind of insinuations were in there, and just how he's done that with all the Muppet movies he's produced, all the different movies he's done. It's just really interesting to see it now as more of a grown adult and looking through this lens of, okay, this is supposed to be a kid show, right? Yeah, sure. That's
Yeah.
what it's called. It's called a kids show, but it's a show for everybody. And I feel like we don't get that as much these days. I'm not sure that's necessarily a bad thing, but there's a lot more shows in television that's target specifically to a small niche demographic. I don't feel like there's too many shows that do this. Like Henson did. The one I will preach to the end of the day is Bluey, is one. If you haven't watched the Australian cartoon Bluey, that's one that there's definitely a humor in there that adults will get that kids won't understand, but it's still so much fun that the kids love it too. But definitely in my circles, I feel like the adults like it more than the kids do. So, which I wonder how much the Muppets were for our parents and stuff. Like I remember talking about what was it this last week? It was the anniversary of when Mr. Snuffleupagus showed up on
Yeah.
Sesame Street as an actual character.
Yeah.
Until that
That
point, he
adults
was
could
only
see, that people, grown-ups could see.
right up until that point. He was only Big Bird's
Imaginary friend.
imaginary friend. I don't remember that at all. My mom tells stories about how her and all the other moms were glued to the television to finally see who Mr. Snuff, like it was a thing for them. But
I wonder if the shows that aren't aimed at such a wide audience now as much is because we have so much more proliferation of like ways that you can watch things.
Yeah.
And so it's not just networks. We don't have a TGIF lineup, right? Where
Right.
it's appointment viewing and everyone's sitting down and watching that. So shows kind of had to cater to a really wide audience and try to hit everything. We don't need that as much as we did back then, and so shows can be more niche.
Sesame
Yeah,
Street was for kids, but the Muppet Show was never for children,
No.
No,
Ever.
absolutely not.
and neither was this.
Yeah. I don't know that it's
No, it really wasn't.
I don't know that that it's a good thing that we have such a wide assortment of television. Like, I mean, I know that's not it's just a hot take. Like, I probably think about this for a while and come back with a different idea. But like, because there's so many, like, sure, I can find my little television corner that I like and the tribe of people I like to hang out with, but it removes like that common ground. You had the weather, you had their politics, and you had your TGIF lineup. That's what you talked about at work. Did you see the latest episode of Hanging with Mr. Cooper? Like people did. Now you're like, maybe that guy over there watches Star Trek, New Worlds or whatever. It's hard to, I mean, everybody's watching some stuff. It's, but I don't know where I'm going with this. Other than I can't decide if I like the idea of like network television in a small, try and get everybody kind of way, or that everything everywhere. Like, we're gonna run out of actors, y'all. Like, at some point, there's going to be less people that are as good as the big names we know. We're gonna be like, who's that guy? They just had to grab somebody because they're just, Marvel's got everyone. If you've won an Oscar, you're in a Marvel movie.
I think in the age of streaming and streaming apps, everybody's trying to get their app home that they want everybody to come to and try to cater to everybody that way. Not necessarily a show, but
it's
a group of shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Because
I got you.
You've got Netflix, but you've got Paramount Plus. You've got what is it, Peacock for the NBC stuff.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And
well, it's the early days of cable again. Cable started out like that, where you would have, there was a couple of channels, and then they started having these specialized channels that would be a specific thing, and you would have all the different channels, and each channel had to have its own whatever. And we're getting that with streaming services now. And it's just the difference is, instead of buying one big package with all of them, you're buying each channel a la carte. You're buying the Disney channel and getting everything that it has, and the HBO channel and get everything that it has. And so it is changing the way that we watch stuff in a lot of ways. It's just a slow change for the production of things.
Lots of money.
So, yeah.
From us and
Yeah,
from
Lots of
them.
money.
Everybody's throwing
Oh, yeah.
money everywhere. I wanted a la carte so I wouldn't have to spend $100 a month on TV. Now I'm spending $100 a month on TV just so I could watch Star Trek and Ted Lasso and Stranger Things and, The Office. It's just I need 87
Yep.
different services to make that happen.
Yeah.
The grumpy
Yeah,
old
good
man
and
yells
bad.
at Cloud. Yeah.
Good job, old man. So, but that was the episode of Dinosaurs. Before we close that down, I wanted to ask you guys a question. What was your favorite dinosaur, one, growing up? And if it's changed, what is your favorite dinosaur now? Amy.
I'm gonna go with Triceratops, and I'm gonna stick with it. It's a good one. I have no reason to change. I have a traumatizing story about a T-Rex from when I was little, but that's for a post show or another time. So that could never be my favorite. But no, I was big on the Triceratops. I don't know why, but he was my favorite.
Triceratops is a good
Nice.
dino.
It's a good
dino.
one.
Steven, what about you?
I'm a generic kid who loved a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And now I'm a generic adult who loves a Tyrannosaurus Rex because
There you
he's
go.
ridiculous. As a kid, he was ferocious. As an adult, I have this thing with my son. So he bought a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I say he bought it. He was 3. I bought it for him. Little hand puppet. And it's rubber. It's one of those rubber ones you put your hand in. You're like, ew, this feels wrong, but you do it. And it's too small for my hand. So I put the T-Rex on my hand and it gets dirt face. Like its eyes like go down to the side. So I invented this character named Devender, the dinosaur, and he yells about how his hands are too small all the time. So it's become a thing now.
Nice.
Whenever I'm just wandered around, I'll just get my wife with some joke about having two tiny arms and doing stupid stuff, and it will make her laugh so hard. And I'm like, this has got legs, and that's why I love the T-Rex, because it's just made for me to make into a thing to make other people laugh, and it makes me
gotta
happy.
have legs.
Yeah,
It's got to have legs because it's got no arms.
that's right.
Right.
The Vender's got very tiny
Exactly.
arms. Stupid nondescript accent, and it just makes me so happy.
Oh,
Sounded like Gru a little bit there to me, but
It depends on what the moment is. I can't make
Sure.
it the same every time. What do I look like, a voice actor?
it drifts in and out.
It drifts. Yeah,
Right.
it goes to German to like French, like Dutch, back and forth. I'm offending lots of people with it. It's great.
Good job. Let's offend everybody equally.
Yeah, everybody.
Travis, what about you?
When I was a kid, it was a T-Rex. It was a Stegosaurus. I really liked Allosaurus because it was kind of a smaller version of a T-Rex in a lot of ways. But I really, really centered in on the Stegosaurus. There was something about this mean looking, big plates and spikes and all that, but just wanted to chill out and chomp on plants.
Like your
Nice.
spirit animal. I want to be defensive, but I can also hurt someone with my whippy tail if I want to. Mostly,
Exactly.
I want to be left alone.
I just want a salad, but if you do get in the way of me getting a salad or try to hurt me, it's not going to end well. And then I'll go back to my
Nice.
salad.
Salad
good
works. I was thinking about this. For me, I think my favorites came from 2 different cartoons. First, when I was really young, I really dug the Brontosaurus because of The Land Before Time.
Oh man, Littlefoot.
I saw
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Him carrying that dang leaf all over the place. Somehow it stayed together. Sure. But just that. And then I think my other one was also because of a cartoon, and I'm going to agree with Travis. It was the Allosaurus because of this cartoon called Dinosaurs.
I remember
Where-
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs were somehow, I guess, taken to an alien world or something, and then they evolved into their own civilization, come back to Earth for some reason, and the leader of the good guys was an Allosaurus. So, and they had this weird thing that apparently when they needed to, they could go full dinosaur, hit a button, and they'd grow up and be like a full dinosaur, but also with a teeny tiny dinosaur brain. So like, it was kind of their version of hulking out for some reason.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then now I would say, I think because of Jurassic Park, I've really enjoyed the Velociraptor, and I've enjoyed getting to know what a Velociraptor actually is and how
Mm.
big they actually are compared to how Steven Spielberg thought they should be. Um,
What are the
and
ones
there's
that
also
spit? Because I'm into those too.
The
I feel that.
Dilophosaurus.
the
Yeah.
Dilophosaurus. Yeah.
Which
feel that
actually didn't
sometimes.
spit, apparently.
Yeah.
They didn't
Like
spit.
the actual dinosaur didn't spit like that.
Mhm.
Look, frog
But-
DNA does weird junk to dinosaurs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You can just hand wave it away with frog
Yeah.
DNA.
The
That's
dinosaurs
why
the
didn't have
Velociraptors-
feathers because they were
Yeah.
frog
And
DNA, yo.
Yeah. Well, they covered their butts in one of the movies where BD Wong was talking about like we made the dinosaurs look like what everybody thinks the dinosaurs should look like.
Yeah,
It's like,
Oh, that's
retcon.
there we
fine.
go.
That's
And
fine.
wavy.
Hey,
But
if I
good
go to a
job.
place, that's what I want to see. I don't want giant
Listen,
turkeys. I got those
Right.
at
When they're
home.
on their 8th iteration of what could possibly go wrong, that's fine. We don't need an
Mhm.
explanation anymore. Ugh,
Nope.
hand wave.
No. So that was our episode on dinosaurs. Next week, who we got next week?
It's me.
Oh, Steven.
Yeah,
All right.
it's
So
me.
next week, what are we watching?
Are you ready? So we've talked about this a few times, but y'all are gonna have to sit through what I think is one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, Taxi. As
Yes.
Travis has said before, there's a Venn diagram that's actually a circle of 8-year-olds who like Taxi, and that's me. And I've been excited to share this episode with you all since the day we said we were gonna do this show.
Holy
It's
cow.
probably one of my favorite episodes of Taxi. It's called Latka's Cookies. And it is season 3, episode 8. And it's unfortunately only available on DailyMotion, but it works great. As I previewed a little bit of it, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to get back into this. So this show didn't last a long time, but it had an impact. You'll get to see some of my favorite characters from the show get some real good moments to shine, which I'm really excited about. And I have one question before we all watch this show. I want to know what your answers are. What drug do you believe is involved in this particular episode? If you had to take a guess at what drug we're going to be exposed to, which one would it be? Amy?
I've already done the research, so I'm gonna
Oh, you're going to recuse yourself?
Not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Travis, did you look this up or do you have to guess?
I did not. I'm going to guess. And being that it's cookies, I'm just going to guess that it's weed.
Weed cookies from Travis. All right. Adi, do you know or can you be a part of this trivia game?
I have no idea. I'm going to guess it's going to be some random drug from wherever Latka's from
Random
that we don't
Latka
actually
drug.
know.
Okay, good. And you playing along at home want the same info from you. So
Yes.
I'm gonna make a poll, watch the Twitters, or just send in, just tweet us what you think is in the cookies.
Just tweet us random drugs.
Just tweet us
Yes.
drugs. I'd love to get that level
Just
of
shout
attention.
drugs at us.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Those were the days show at gmail.com or those days show on Twitter. Let us know what drug you think are in the cookies. And I'm excited about that.
Speaking of, did we get any emails about dinosaurs, Travis?
We got no emails about dinosaurs. We did get a couple of responses on Twitter. Matthew Sargent said, Dinosaurs is on Disney Plus. I'm going to have to check that out. Haven't seen that show in a long time. Michael Miller just responded with, not the mama, and a gif of the baby beating Earl with a bat.
I
And
did
Rachel-
like that they all said again, like the baby
Yes.
did.
Yeah.
And then Rachel F said, as someone who had to sneak watch this show as a kid, I'm so excited for this episode. Also, my cat sitter has said many times that my old cranky cat has a specific not the mama face she makes when he walks in.
The Dinosaurs lives on, man. It does. Catchphrases are gonna stick around. I love it.
My favorite of that was the episode where he's just hitting Earl over the head, and Earl says, "You do that one more time, and I'm going to throw you across this room." He thinks about it, and then he does it. And the next shot you see is as Charlene's walking into the room, the baby flies and hits the wall. Boom. And baby gets up and says, again. It's like, okay.
Once again, that's Jim Henson humor through and through.
Yep.
That is
Absolutely.
very much.
Anything else y'all want to say about Dinosaurs?
I liked the show. I'm gonna start watching some of these shows twice, because it takes one episode for me to figure out what I'm watching, and this has been a common thread through like the entire series of our show. Is I need to
Yeah.
watch it once to get my head right and once to enjoy myself. That's I think, and Dinosaurs is one of those. I was like, what am I watching? Then I was like, no, I'm watching Genius play out. I just need to get my head around it. And then the end came, and I was like, that was the best setup for a punchline I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it for me, it's like you see on Twitter and stuff, people will say, "Oh, let's recast this movie or this show with Muppets." That's what Dinosaurs was.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs was taking Roseanne and replacing all of the characters with puppets, and that was what we got, and it ran for 4 seasons. So,
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Any
believe the
final
show
words,
ran-
Amy?
I can't believe this show ran for 4 seasons.
I know.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's not good. I just can't believe this show ran for 4 seasons.
look, it was the 90s.
I know.
It was a different time.
The
It
darkest
was
thing
a
we had in
different
the
time.
90s was like Law and Order. Like this is, and now we're like Dexter and junk where people murder each other. This was
Hey,
just
X-Files was pretty intense.
okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
You
that's
don't
fair.
know. You don't know.
I don't
did.
know.
Oh, and then
Well, he
the
doesn't
ending.
know because the only episode of
doesn't.
X-Files Steven has seen
Yeah,
was
it was
the
not dark.
the most lighthearted episode.
The greatest
possible.
episode I've ever seen.
Yes.
Mulder's scream will live on in my brain for rent free.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that ends the show for this week.
Good job, Travis.
As Mulder screams. Hope you've had a good time. We'll see you next week when we talk about Taxi. Until then, not the mama.